Welcome back to Fantasy Football Fam. It's been a few weeks since we got to see you guys.
It has been. Hope everybody had a solid holiday.
Yeah, we kind of separated for the holidays, and
Yep.
week before I had a bunch of finals, so we really kind of just put everything on hold. Hopefully your playoffs have gone well.
Yep.
You know, playoff time can be quite crazy, and sadly sometimes those guys that play well for you all year, they just don't show up in the playoffs.
Yeah, and we left y'all with a cliffhanger. I didn't end up making the playoffs for those who were following.
Yeah.
Things did not work out in my favor. I ended up losing that week's matchup anyways. However, I'm not getting relegated from the league altogether, so I'm a happy man.
He was able to pull together a
Yes.
win. As far as go deep goes, we do have Mike, Mud, the Green Machine, and AZ Bird Gang, Brandon, in the championship.
Nice.
So congratulations to you guys.
Yes.
Myself and Tim, the number 1 and 2 seed, are now going to be playing for third place.
Fantastic.
And then Janie and Marshall are fighting in the toilet bowl to see who's going to get relegated out of the league. And then as far as our consolation championship, or not championship, but finals, we've got Kurt and Mason.
Ooh,
Mason's in the consolation
Mason.
finals. So we're going to have Mason coming in later. And yeah, we forgot to introduce ourselves. In case you haven't watched the show, I don't know if you're just tuning in. Garrison,
I'm Tedder.
Tedder. We love doing this show. It's a lot of fun. We're going to have this episode and one more episode next week. And then, it's going to be on to next year. We might not see you guys for a little while after that, but we're just going to finish up this year strong, One thing you just got to know with your championships, if you're still in it, I'm sure you've been doing great so far. You know who's good on your team.
Yeah.
Play those guys.
Yeah. Play the best players on your team.
Yeah, but there is this whole COVID thing. You know, this COVID situation is really putting a damper on things. And, I got to give a shout out to Mason because we talked about this at the beginning of the year, like what we learned about last year.
Yep.
And one of the things Mason talked about was, just having those backups in every position.
Yep.
Because of COVID, and I didn't necessarily follow that.
Yeah.
Because COVID kind of chilled out for the beginning of the year. There weren't that many people going on the COVID list.
Then it ramped up
during the playoffs. So it's not my fault, but I'm sorry for those of you who couldn't play your best players because of COVID in your playoff matchups.
Yes.
I'm in the championship in one league, and the guy lost Dalvin Cook and Austin Eckler to COVID. So
dang.
And then I got to play Justin Jackson. So
yeah, and another thing, COVID-wise, make sure you're checking rosters all the way up until game time because the CDC and the NFL have new rules now where you can get back a little bit sooner than before. So come Sunday, there are no Thursday games this week. So come Sunday morning before that 11 a.m., if you have a guy that's on COVID, there's a chance he may be eligible to play. So be looking all the way up till 10:58 your time. Because
they used to not be able to elevate same day, right? Mm-hmm. And now they can. So just like usual, treat it like an injury. Yep. When you're playing fantasy, it is somewhat of a commitment. Obviously, you have your life, but one thing you should always be doing, if you can, is getting up Sunday morning and just looking for the news.
Yep.
You never know who might be a surprise inactive.
Yep.
You can make some last minute moves. You don't want to tinker too much on game day, but there's a lot of information that you can access and then even pivot, adjust. There might be somebody who gets a huge bump that you might be able to play in your flex or something like that. So that game day activeness is always a good thing to do.
So if you're a Sunday sleeper, set that alarm for 10:50.
10:50, even
11:50,
10 minutes,
or wherever you are in the time zones. 10 minutes prior to.
Give
There's enough time.
15 minutes to just go through and make sure that everybody you think is going to play is going to play. It's always a bummer when you don't get to get any points from a position because they happen to be inactive. There's people, I remember earlier this year, Lamar Jackson's for sure going to play. He was out with an illness for a couple days, and then he practiced on Friday.
Yeah.
And then he was out on Sunday. Yep. It was not very much heads up. So he's just he's gone. You get a 0 if you leave him in there, and it's hard to win when you get a 0.
Yeah, like Garrison said, play the guys that you have to play. Don't be a guy where last week Jonathan Taylor was outscored by Rashard Penny, so you start Rashard Penny all of a sudden. You're not going to do that. So play your big names and then let it ride. And let it ride.
Yeah, I mean, no player is going to get you all the points every week. It's all about playing the odds. Who's the most likely, Because Rashard Penny, there's like no way he's going to get 50 points. But Jonathan Taylor has shown that he can get 50 points,
Exactly.
So yeah, just keep an eye out on the COVID stuff. It might be eased up a little bit. You might be able to play more people, but yeah, that's something you're gonna want to check every Sunday.
Definitely.
I guess we really only have one Sunday left, so this Sunday, especially if you're in the championship, check that before you go.
It's playoff football.
It's about to be playoff football, and there's a huge wild card race going on.
Yes.
In both conferences.
Yeah.
Ultimately, I mean, what we take away from that from fantasy is it doesn't seem like any players are getting rested this week.
Which is good. Good for everyone.
So, and which I didn't really imagine too many, because especially if you have a first round bye locked up, you don't really want to sit people for 3 weeks in a row.
No,
right?
usually guys play with, 1, 2, 3 quarters and they sit in the fourth. But even then, guys can score enough points in 3 quarters, fantasy-wise.
If Aaron Rodgers
Yeah.
is resting in the fourth quarter, he probably already has 3 touchdowns.
Yeah.
So
Yep.
I wouldn't worry about people getting rested unless you're playing Week 18. That's something that, if you're playing Week 18, you should probably talk to your commissioner. Almost no leagues play in Week 18 because of the chance that there are teams that have the best teams with the best players have locked up their first round bye, and they have no business putting them out there to get hurt.
Exactly.
So, yeah, only 18. And the other thing with this towards the end of the year is it seems like some of these injured players on the bad teams, that are out of playoff contention, they're just going to get deactivated for the year. They're looking towards next year. So I wouldn't count on DeAndre Swift coming back. Yeah. He might, you never know, but just sometimes it's just better to wait.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, if you're not playing for anything, you don't want a season-ending injury at the end of a season that's going to put you out until the middle of the summer.
Right, yeah.
So, yeah.
They want to get these guys back for training camp and get them going, get the offense, defense, off on the right track.
Yep.
One thing we did want to talk about, we did this at the beginning of the year, but we're going to look back towards the beginning of this year and everything that's gone on and kind of what we learned.
Yeah.
So the one thing that I learned is it's really based on the Cooper Kupp, even Tyler Lockett or Cordero Patterson is like you kind of need to refresh your expectations and your opinions on players every year.
Yeah.
I've been a Cooper Kupp guy for a few years, and he was just so inconsistent, and you saw Woods get targeted on first and second down a lot more. Third down they look for Cooper Kupp, but sometimes they just didn't really use him that much. Tyler Lockett kind of was the boomer bust guy, but he's become more consistent. Kupp has become very consistent. Even like Mike Williams showed that when he was consistent, he was a very valuable fantasy option. Cordell Patterson, if you could have traded for him early on, you might have had some great value for the rest of the season because he was such a touchdown monster. He was the best player on their offense. So, we just have these ideas in our head for these players, and we don't want to change them. I've like, especially me, I'm like, yeah, I'm done with that guy.
Yep.
That guy's not worth that pick. But I haven't really analyzed it. And Kupp with the new quarterback coming over, those are things you got to consider when you're making your plans for your draft.
Yeah.
What about you, Tedder? What'd you learn?
I know Mason may hit on this a little bit later as well, but for me, it's okay not to overlook the young guys, the young unproven guys. Well, young unproven meaning first year, second year guys, rookie years as well. Another guy that boomed this year was Jamar Chase. And, there was all the talk about he can't catch an NFL football and he's struggling, and he comes out and puts up monster numbers. Another guy that I was obviously big on the beginning of the year was Javonte Williams. I was able to get him in 2 of my 4 leagues, but there are some other leagues I wish I would have jumped on him sooner because he's going to be that guy going forward. Another big name who statistically has played better than some of the other tight ends was Kyle Pitts. Another young guy where he was taken later in drafts just because, he's young, he's unproven, but he's played statistically as well as the top guys, and he's been healthy all year. So, I think going into next season, it's for me to really, watch preseason, watch the draft, watch what teams are doing, watch what coordinators are coming out, what our offense may look like, and saying, hey, some of these rookie guys can come in and make an impact right away in fantasy.
Yeah, that's a good point. I think a lot of it has to do with how good the offense is. Kadarius Toney could have been an awesome fantasy option. Obviously, he got hurt too, but being on a better team.
Yep.
If he was on a better team, that makes all the difference.
100%.
If your offense can stay on the field. We are actually going to move over to Mason.
All right.
He's going to tell you what he learned from this year.
Sweet.
There were some lessons learned, especially by me this year. Us doing all the research on these rookies, I became a little bit too high on them in the draft and in my trades. I got really trade happy this year, and the overactivity really cost me. I didn't do as well in some of the leagues, especially my dynasty, going for those young guys, which is nice that I'll have them in the future and get to see their development. But really, you want to play for the year you're currently in and not only for the upcoming ones, especially with all the COVID uncertainty. And another thing I should not have done is trust a Broncos receiver when they don't have a quarterback. Tedder, what was I thinking?
All right. Thank you, Mason. Appreciate your input there.
Yes.
Definitely something to consider going forward. It's always good to kind of reflect and see what you can learn from what you just did. Kind of change things, because there's always it's a learning process every year. So we're going to move on to kind of talk about some guys that we're really looking forward to seeing where they're at next year, and we're kind of impressed with what they did this year. A lot of these young guys we hadn't really seen. Who you got going forward that you really like?
One guy I really like, I've kind of hit on him a few times already today, but I'm really excited to see what happens with Kyle Pitts. I'm a big fan of his. Be interested to see what Matt Ryan does in the offseason. There's some lower level chatter that he might be a guy that some teams may look at if they can't strike one of the big fish, and one of those teams being my team, the Broncos. Matt Ryan's kind of been on one of the under the radar type guys, so who knows what happens for Kyle Pitts there. Another guy, he's a big time name, but I just want to see if he's able to build on the year he's had this year, and that's Jonathan Taylor. We love him. He's obviously a fantasy monster. There's nothing that we have to say to hype that up, but I'm just excited to see if he can continue to do what he's been doing. We've seen that from a guy like Derrick Henry. However, can Jonathan Taylor stack on another year like he's been stacking? That'll be fun to see. But other than that, I'm kind of looking forward to next year's rookie class. I'm a big off-season football follower. That's one of my favorite things to do, especially as a fantasy guy. So for me, it'll be, what will these young guys next year bring to the table?
That's always good to watch. That's one thing I really have a hard time doing, because I don't watch a lot of college football. It's like I'm kind of lost when it comes to the rookies. So
that's fine.
That's why the rookie jar was fun to do
Yeah.
this season, because you got to do some research and learn about some of these younger guys.
Yep.
With these young guys, one of the rookie jar guys I did was Elijah Moore.
Yep.
He really impressed me with being able to get what he got done with different quarterbacks, and I really like that coach, Robert Saleh. Look, I feel like they're going to move in a good direction, so build around their young QB and that young wide receiver and kind of move forward from there. They also have a good running back there, Michael Carter. He looks pretty good too. And then, Jalen Waddle, another rookie wide receiver, looking great. Target and reception machine.
Yes.
They rely on him. They count on him. He's already seems to be like kind of where Justin Jefferson was last year, and maybe even he would have been kind of in that same category had he been on a better offense.
I agree.
Who else do you have that you're looking forward to seeing next year?
Well, you know what? I wasn't gonna do more of my homering, but I'm going to.
Yeah.
Everyone to this point knows how much I love Javonte Williams.
Yep.
I am super, super excited to see what he looks like when they take the training wheels off of him and they let him be loose, because he's an absolute monster. He's so much fun to watch play football. And I'm kind of excited to see what he looks like as the true number one next year. I don't think Denver will use him as a bell cow, because I think we're starting to see in the NFL what happens to bell cows.
Even Derrick Henry can get hurt.
Exactly. You can be a Terminator, but as a running back, those hits stack up, So, but to see him being the RB1, the main focus, will be fun to watch. Another guy that I'm looking forward to who's still young is, what's his name? Goodness gracious. And I just lost it. But let me throw it back to you, and then let's see if it comes back to me.
Yeah. Just let it marinate a little bit, okay?
Yeah.
One guy that really impressed me towards the end of this season was Amon-Ra St. Brown, another rookie. Kind of slow start. I think the Lions were struggling, but once they figured out what they had in Amon-Ra, it kept going to him. Look at his targets over the past few weeks. It's absolutely crazy. So, yeah, he's looking good. He's clearly getting open. Another guy, Lenny.
Ooh, you love Lenny.
Both regular season and playoff Lenny.
Can't go wrong with Lenny.
Something happened at the Jags, but he seems like he's back to form. Maybe not getting ran into the dirt as much. They know how to use him, using him in the passing game as well.
Yeah.
Really impressed with him this year. Really would be happy to have him on a dynasty league, going forward, especially if he's like your second or third running back. But with Tom Brady in that offense, the sky's the limit.
Yeah, and I had to get into my phone, but another guy that I'm excited to see more incorporated going into next year is Rashad Bateman. He started off the year injured, so didn't really have a chance to kind of fall into that offense, gain some chemistry with Lamar Jackson. But I think a year in the offseason spent getting to know each other, figuring out what routes look like, and getting that comfortability, I think he'll shine next year.
That team has dealt with so many injuries too, so they maybe they got their running backs, they've got Bateman for the year, they can kind of get a better passing offense going that isn't just Mark Andrews.
Yeah, no kidding.
Because even Hollywood Brown has fallen off, But yeah, Mark Andrews.
Yep.
What about him? I feel like in Dynasty he's the tight end I would want to have the most.
Yeah.
Because Travis Kelce's older.
Yeah.
Darren Waller's been up and down, dealing with injuries. Mark Andrews kind of seems like that guy. Obviously Kyle Pitts is a little younger, but haven't seen the same kind of production out of him. So love Mark Andrews. Elijah Mitchell looks really good. If you were able to scoop him early. If you didn't drop him at some point, you're happy with that.
Yeah, another rookie from this year who started off pretty strong, had a decent middle, but kind of tapered off a little bit. But I think what we gained his place is Devontae Smith.
Yeah.
From the old Philadelphia Eagles.
I know Mason really likes Devontae Smith. Devontae Smith.
Yeah.
The way it's spelled, I always want to say Devonta, but I think it's Devontae.
Yep.
We'll see where he's at. He's got a great quarterback. Seems like that offense is starting to get going a little bit more.
Yeah.
Another guy, Gabe Davis. I think he's a second-year guy. He might be third year, but he's looking like he's going to be that number 2 option there. I think he's going to leapfrog Cole Beasley and Emmanuel Sanders. I'm not sure where their contracts are at, but I think no matter what, whether they're there or not, he's going to end up being that number 2 option going forward.
I agree.
And Brandon Cooks, man. Talk about doing a lot with a little.
Yeah.
He, obviously he had some down weeks there, but that offense was so bad. But if that offense is going, they got a good run game. Very clearly, Brandon Cooks is going to be a good option. I don't know how long he's going to stay at the Texans because he just gets moved around all the time.
Goodness gracious.
But I like him, and I'm going to try not to overlook him next year. I think a lot of people did. I don't have any Brandon Cooks. I should have got him a little bit.
Same.
You got anybody else you want to?
No, not
shout
really.
out?
I think that's the main guys that kind of come to mind for me.
Cool. Well, we are going to send it over to Mason. Mason's got a few guys he wants to chat with you guys about.
As the 21-22 fantasy football season comes to a close, we wanted to touch on the players that we thought really came along this year, stood out or broke out, and maybe even were just overlooked. This guy wasn't. Justin Jefferson, who I'm starting off with, the receiver on the Vikings, had to fill the shoes of Stephon Diggs when he first came in as a rookie, and has now set the record for most receiving yards by any player in his first 2 seasons. So I think he's been more than up to the task, and we're all excited to see what he has in the future. And then next I'm moving on to the Arizona Cardinals backfield, which of course I'm going to talk about them because I always do. James Conner, everyone thought he didn't have much left in the tank, and he really proved us wrong this year. He was one of the lead backs in fantasy, and not just as a runner, but as a pass catcher, just adding the PPR, his reception yards were really, really high this year. And his running mate, Chase Edmonds, who used to be more of the pass catcher, shown that it didn't matter if he was running the ball or catching it, was going to get almost 6 yards a touch. So it's really impressive out of that tandem. I think they're one of the best that the league has to offer. And then I'm going to move on to Tyshawn Raekwon Debo Samuel, who plays bigger than he actually is, only 6 foot. Had an injury-riddled couple of first seasons. We weren't really sure what the consistency was going to be there on the 49ers, but in his third year, doesn't matter if you're throwing him the ball or just handing it off to him, he's going to get you plenty of yards after the fact. And then I have next Michael Pittman Jr., the tall Cali man who has doubled his production from last year, has shown that he's really the clear-cut number one receiver in Indiana and that he's not going to be stepping down anytime soon. And then lastly, I'm going to talk about the quadman A.J. Dillon, who was close to breaking 1,000 multi-purpose yards as the second back on his team, which is just really great. I mean, he's 250 pounds of pure muscle, and he's got the speed there, but mainly with AJ, you get that power, which not a lot of running backs can offer with his consistent durability. So these guys have been just great to watch, and I think they're going to continue to do it next year.
Yeah, those guys are awesome too. Justin Jefferson, wow. Just wow.
Yeah.
And then as a Packer fan, A.J. Dillon, I'm super excited to have him on my squad.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, so we're going to move on to our positional leaders and our sure thing. It's a sure thing, bud. So, we're going back to week 14.
Yeah.
Positional leaders, Josh Allen, Dalvin Cook, Devontae Adams, George Kittle. Your boy happened to pick George Kittle. I was the only one that got one there. So, I'm at 5 now.
Okay.
Tedder's in second at 3. Mason's got 2. Our sure thing, we all lost. So, not so sure thing is maybe what we should call it.
Yeah.
So I'm sitting at 5 and 6. Mason's at 6 and 5, and Tedder's at 3 and 8.
Let's go.
We're not going to talk about that, okay? Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and start with mine.
Cool.
So my sure thing is going to be the Minnesota and Green Bay game going over 46 points.
I like it.
We'll see about... I know the Packers are going to score. I just know it. They're the Packers. Minnesota, we'll see if they can do it without Adam Thielen, but, you know, those two guys, Justin Jefferson, Dalvin Cook, so
Where's
good.
the game?
I believe it's in Minnesota.
Oh, that helps out. Then they're playing inside on turf, so...
But don't quote me on that. Because
I
we
think
just
you're
played
right.
a home game. But I think it's in Minnesota.
Okay, I think you're
But yeah, so over 46 points, I feel like those are two pretty good offenses there.
Cool.
My QB, going to be Aaron Rodgers.
Love it.
And my wide receiver is going to be Devontae Adams.
Love it.
What number is Devontae Adams?
18.
17.
17.
And it's week 17. Let's go, Devontae Adams. My running back, Jonathan Taylor. My
Okay.
tight end, Travis Kelce.
Nice.
If they're great, just go with it. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
All right, who you got over there?
Well, I'm going with my guy from Wyoming. Let's go positional leaders first. I'm going Josh Allen. They're at home against the Falcons, so I think he's going to have a monster day.
Yeah.
Because they're still in the race for that first place in the AFC East. Even though they just overtook it from the Patriots, they still want to win out. Next, same running back as you, Jonathan Taylor, against the Raiders. For two reasons. One, because it's J-Tay.
It's J-Tay.
And two, there's a chance, small chance, that Carson Wentz might still play on Sunday. But if he doesn't, I think there'll be a healthy dosage of J-Tay.
And they are not afraid to just give him the ball 30 times.
Might as well at this point, you know. I have another number 17 at the wide receiver position, Jalen Waddle, against the Titans. Yeah, I like that. That's a big game. You know,
is a
Dolphins are
big
trying to
game.
stay in playoff relevancy, and the Titans are trying to move up the rung. So
I don't hate that.
Yeah.
I don't hate that at all. I
Thank
like
you.
that.
Little sleeper pick.
Little sleeper.
And then finally, tight end, I'm going Mark Andrews against the Rams, just because it's Mark Andrews.
Yeah, and he's been red hot.
Yeah, they throw him the ball like 40 times a game. So, and then for my sure thing, well, my not sure thing, since I'm 3 and 8, I got the Broncos. They're plus 6.5 against the Chargers, and I think the Broncos are gonna win. They got to win out to at least give themselves a chance. And they haven't played bad 3 weeks in a row, so hopefully this is their week where they get back on top.
I'm going to be putting $300 on the Chargers.
Yeah, you should. Put your life savings on the Chargers.
I'm just kidding. I had such a rough start. It's hard. This is why, if you're betting,
Yeah.
be careful.
Yes.
Don't bet $300.
Yes.
You know, unless you're willing to lose it.
Yeah.
Don't bet money you're not willing to lose,
Yeah,
because
exactly.
I would offer you the opportunity to try and do these spreads and guess these, because it's a lot harder than you think.
Yes, it is.
NFL's very unpredictable. Sports gambling, can be dangerous.
It can be.
Yeah. So, although I would say you can get a little bit ahead with some of these apps they're doing. They're just giving away free money.
Yeah.
Essentially, get in, get your free bets, win a little bit, take out the money you put in. That's what I would suggest to you.
Yeah.
And you're playing with winnings at that point. But yeah, so we're gonna move to Mason. He's got his sure thing and positional leaders right here.
Moving along, I will also add my sure thing, which is sadly the Washington football team losing to the Eagles this week by 3 points or more. They haven't really shown that they have what it takes to make that playoff push or even keep their healthy guys on the field. So I don't think they're going to be able to do it against the Eagles this week. And then for positional leaders at quarterback, I have Josh Allen against the Falcons. I think he'll dump it down and spread it around. Next for running backs, I have Jonathan Taylor, which is a very safe bet since he is just a beast. And then for receivers, I have Devontae Adams against the Vikings. I didn't go with Justin Jefferson here because I think the Packers have the better defense and they're going to control the tempo of the game. And then lastly, for tight ends, I went with Travis Kelce over Mark Andrews. As he bounces back, I think he is going to put it on this week, and that's what I have.
Okay, so those are our positional leaders and sure thing. Good luck to you if you made it to the championship.
Good luck.
If not, sometimes it's nice to just keep I would love, in one of my leagues, I would just keep setting my lineup because I wasn't even make the playoffs.
Yeah,
but I want to see how good I could have done
Yeah.
if I would have made the playoffs, And it's just practicing making those calls. That's what fantasy is.
Yeah.
Just like using your best judgment, making a call, and seeing if it's right. So you can get more practice in that towards through the end of the season. So good luck with the rest of your year. We will be back next week. It is getting cold out there, so stay warm out there, folks.
Yes,
All right?
the weather outside is frightful.
It is very frightful. See you next week, fam.